Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the architectural soul of Oman. It's a really fascinating story about ancient traditions, the pressures of the modern world, and a nation's quest to build a future without totally erasing its past. Let's start with this quote, because it really sets the stage perfectly. You see, when historic buildings just stand empty, it's about more than just crumbling walls. It's a real threat to a nation's identity, an identity that's literally captured in stone and mud brick.
So, here's how we're going to break this story down. First, we'll look at the problem of these vanishing buildings. Then, we'll dig into what makes them so special in the first place. After that, we'll see how something as simple as water shaped everything, then hit a major turning point in history, and finally, see how Oman found a really unique way forward.
All right, first up, let's really get a feel for these beautiful but decaying buildings at the heart of our story, what our source material calls the problem of silent stones. I want you to just imagine walking through these dark, silent alleyways in towns that were once buzzing with life. The source we're looking at describes it so well, saying the deserted city feels mute. All the life is gone and the buildings themselves are just left behind with no one to tell their story. And this is the really crucial part. Losing these buildings isn't just about losing some old structures. It's like losing pages from a history book. Every single building is a physical record of the culture, the society that built it. So when one of them crumbles, it's like a page of that history gets torn out for good.
Okay, so we know these buildings are at risk, but what makes them so unique in the first place? What is it exactly that's worth preserving? Let's get into the details of what makes them tick.
And here's a detail that I just find brilliant. This isn't architecture that was designed on a computer screen. It was built to a human scale. You had master craftsmen using their own bodies, their arm's length, their hand's width, as units of measurement. It creates this really intimate, organic feel, a direct connection between the building and the people inside it.
And, a huge part of that character comes straight from the earth itself. These places were built with a really simple, honest set of materials, all sourced locally. You've got stone, mud brick, and wood making up the bones, and then lime and this special Omani mud plaster called sarouge for the skin.
What you get from all this is this amazing contrast that you see everywhere in Oman. On one side, you have these huge, solid walls, thick mud brick built to keep out the heat and, for defense. But then, breaking up that massive feeling, you find these incredibly delicate, expressive details, like beautifully carved doors, little window niches, and these gorgeous wooden screens they call mashrabiyah. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about maybe the single most important factor that shaped Omani life and where people decided to build: water. At the very heart of Omani civilization is this system called the Falaj. And honestly, it's just a stunning feat of engineering. We're talking about networks of water channels, some of them stretching for over 30 kilometers, that cleverly use gravity to pull water up from underground sources and bring life to this really dry landscape. And the way this water is used, it follows this incredibly smart, logical path. The very first bit of water, right where it comes out of the ground, is the cleanest, so that's for drinking. A little further down the channel, it's used for household stuff, like washing. And only after all that does it finally flow into the fields for farming. It's just a brilliant system for keeping water pure for every use. And the really mind-blowing thing, this isn't some modern invention. It is an ancient tradition that has literally been the lifeblood of this land for millennia. People debate exactly how old it is, but we're talking thousands of years. So all of this ancient tradition, this way of life that's been in place for centuries, it's about to hit a wall, and that wall is the year 1970. This is the moment that changes everything for Oman and its architecture. So in 1970, Sultan Qaboos comes to power, and he kicks off this massive modernization program, which was absolutely needed, right? But it created this immediate clash. These ancient towns built for people and donkeys with their narrow, winding alleys, they were suddenly facing the demands of the modern world: cars, wide roads, and a population that was growing fast. So how do you handle that kind of explosive change? Well, they brought in two top architects to create a master plan for the capital city, Muscat. Their names were John R. Harris and Mohammed Makia, and they came to the table with two very, very different ideas about how to build a future without just bulldozing the past. Harris, he was the pragmatist. His thinking was, look, modern needs come first. He suggested developing new areas along the big roads and thought Old Muscat could become a kind of cultural or tourist center. Makia, on the other hand, had a totally different approach. He was much more of a preservationist. He wanted to keep the old city as a living, breathing monument and find ways to fit modern life into it, using cluster developments to keep that sense of community alive.
All right, so you've got these two big competing ideas on the table. Which way does Oman go? This is where the country really had to decide what its modern identity was going to look like.
Well, at first, neither plan really won out, and what you got in the 1980s was just this chaotic building boom. New stuff was going up so fast, with almost no rules, that the country's unique architectural heritage was genuinely at risk of just being paved over. The government knew it had to do something.
And the solution, when it came, was, well, it was a document, a manual. And it got this informal nickname among architects, the Pink File. It was issued in 1987, and it was basically a rule book for how all new buildings should look, creating a kind of official, modern Omani style for the whole country.
And when I say this guide was specific, I mean really specific. It controlled everything. Buildings could be no more than 3 stories high. They had to use traditional things like arches and window screens. It even specified the exact colors you could paint the outside walls: white, light buff, or silver gray. And you had to hide all the ugly modern stuff, like air conditioning units.
And the result? It created this unified, harmonious style that you just don't see anywhere else in the Gulf. It's a style that really respects tradition. So instead of a chaotic mess of glass skyscrapers, Oman developed a modern look that actually feels connected to its own history.
So in the end, Oman pulled it off. They managed to navigate this really difficult moment and create a unique modern identity. But it does leave us with this big, fascinating question, doesn't it? By creating a rule book for how things should look, can a building code, a government document, truly preserve the living, breathing soul of the culture it's trying to protect? Something to think about.